whatever. Whereas then we were just like, awesome, someone sent something in, print it for the most part. So there was very, which that has its advantages too. Obviously, it's just completely open. So that, I think that was kind of an interesting approach, and part of that was because, we didn't know like 10 million people who, were doing vegan stuff or had vegan recipes. And the fact that we had, a handful of people that were willing to contribute for nothing and to this project that wouldn't make any money and blah, 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 and we're able to do that was just, fantastic. So, it was kind of like that was the important impetus of having, those perspectives in there and hoping that people would read them. In addition, this is a little bit off, and tell me if this winds up on a tangent that's not useful, just interrupt me or whatever.
Totally.
But the other thing that was like a big deal for us, and it was definitely part of like the hippie core crew, or sort of like our whole vibe, was that we were like dead serious about the things that were important. I mean, like being vegan and our politics are definitely very serious, but we really didn't take ourselves so seriously. So we were very much into being silly and goofy and just being more expressive and fun, as opposed to kind of like the, what I would see as the kind of very sort of masculinist, hardcore, like, I'm fucking hardcore, whatever that hardcore vegan, hardcore this, just like, and so there was always this intent of having both, so the essays were kind of, generally speaking, like, serious, kind of maybe falling in like the academic area, although they certainly like weren't cited or whatever, but they were, this is important information, but then like you turn the page and there'd be like a dancing mushroom or something, like, you know what I mean? So, and that was definitely like our vibe, like that's how we were. I mean, and so it's like, maybe that gets back to like, what was the hippie core crew like? That's how we were. So it was a group of, people who could kind of appeal to, these things are important, but we couldn't as much relate to, the kind of like, I don't know, like take yourself too seriously punk rockers, or the very kind of, what I would describe as kind of like dominantly masculine, like there's a way to do things, it's like they could have been businessmen, they could have been whatever, but they're into punk, but they're really like dominant and, angry all the time or whatever, and that was definitely not our thing. So people either tended to really like that, or some people were, didn't take to it because maybe it's not serious enough. Like, you shouldn't have dancing mushrooms. This is a serious issue. Animals are being slaughtered. It's like, yeah, definitely, but dancing mushrooms are still kind of awesome.
Yeah, pretty much.
So, I don't know if that makes sense.
No, it absolutely, makes sense. And I think that, some of the introductions to the recipes really reflect that sort of ethos as well.
Right.
Obviously
just silliness and sarcasm and whatever.
Well, and an encouragement for experimentation, and that the recipe is not like an absolute doctrine,
Right. And it's funny because my wife now gives me crap about recipes too, because she's like, or will text me, I'm trying to make, such and such recipe, and it says this. What did you mean by that exactly? It'll be like, put in about this or whatever in there, and then she's like, what is about that supposed to mean? I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's up to you. So that's definitely reflected in there too.
Yeah.
Which of course has its advantages and definitely has its disadvantages. I mean, certainly for baking and things like that, being very broad can give results that sometimes are not that good, but it can also give results that are really cool.
Right, exactly. So, and you touched on this a little bit, but where did you end up getting all the recipes for the zine? And did you really, how did you decide whether to include things or not?
Yeah, all the recipes for the most part were from people that we had contact with either through hippiecore or through, I was in a band called Desecration before Joel and I did hippiecore, and I was in another band after that, but it was mostly through having made a bunch of contacts that way. and then we had already sort of this mail M-A-I-L connection to people all over the world as a function of people like ordering demos and records and whatever. And then through doing that, of course, you meet people who respond to certain things. Oh, I've been vegan for X amount of time, blah, blah, blah. And so those were the people that we kind of solicited for recipes and things like that. And this would be the kind of thing Joel might have been better with, but I don't remember that we really had. I think we probably printed most, if not all, the recipes that we got. I don't remember, getting recipes and going, oh, this sucks, or whatever. And, again, that's an advantage and disadvantage, too, because, some of the recipes are not super exciting.
Yeah.
And some of them are not that good. But I think part of that, again, is because, at least for us, and I think it's pretty consistent. I mean, there weren't, even at, a library, there wasn't a vegan cookbook. It didn't exist. So I think part of it was, we're not going to get into, this isn't really exciting enough, whatever. It's like, dude, just get it out there. Anything is better than nothing. We need some ideas, So I don't remember, and again, I apologize if, Joel says, no, remember when blah, blah, blah. Again, my memory's not good for that. So I'll back up any
well, that's the fun part of...
that remembers it better. But I will say definitely the philosophy was more it's more important to have ideas and put it out there than make it the 10 most exciting vegan recipes, which in some ways people have the luxury of doing now because there are more things available.
Yeah.
So you can kind of be more picky. And I had a really good experience actually with, do you know Emily Hardiman?
The name kind of, I don't know.
Okay, you might want to connect with her. So she lives in Somerville and is this amazing vegan cook, chef, blah, 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 baker. And she's done stuff. She works for, I think she works for one of the Harvard libraries now, but she's done cupcakes and things for events and stuff. Sometimes you'll see her stuff.
Yeah.
And she's been around a long time.
I've actually I haven't even been in Boston for 2 years yet, so.
Oh, okay. Well, if you're interested, I should connect you with her. She's really nice. You guys would probably hit it off. And she's like a post-punk person like me, but she's one generation younger. Yeah. And so, and I had this amazing opportunity. First of all, she's just a really great person, but I had this great opportunity when I met her. She's a friend with another friend of mine, and whose name is Kathy. And Kathy kept mentioning me to her and her to me, oh my God, you need to meet Emily, and kept doing it over and over. And then at some point, I gave Kathy a copy of Soy Not Oi, and then Kathy was talking to Emily about it. It's remember my friend Jack Kahn, one I introduced you to? He did the zine thing when he, in the 80s called Soy Not Oi, and she's like, it's that Jack? Like that. And then so it was this whole, weird kind of, craziness, and then she's like, we have to meet, blah, blah, blah. So she did some interview with me for some blog, but the whole part of it that was just so powerful, and I just thought was so cool from my perspective, was she was telling me how important the zine was for her, getting into it at the time she did, and how influential it was for her, sort of coming into punk or whatever, and then learning about veganism, and it was her thing, and then she took recipe and has taken recipes from it and made them amazing. And she actually, we had this, as a thank you, she had this dinner where she made recipes only from Soy Not Oi, but with her touch to it. In fact, I should send you, there's a whole blog about it. I'll send you the link.
So, yeah, Joel mentioned this briefly when we spoke. So, yeah, I would absolutely love to see this, so.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's and she did it, it was just so sweet. I'm getting goosebumps right now, just remembering it.
Yeah.
It was just so sweet of her. And her cooking is amazing, really cutting edge, interesting, it's very much not like soy. Soy Not Oi is mashed potatoes are vegan if you put soy milk, awesome,
Right.
Where, and she's just, she should be someone working in some crazy, high-end vegan restaurant, whatever. You know, I mean, she's just fantastic.